Okay, this is Mr. Olma Hendricks. I noticed that your initials are AOH. What does that stand for?
Anus Olma Hendrick.
How do you spell the first?
A-N-O-S.
And when's your birthday?
May the 3rd, 1913.
You were raised in Fort Meade? You born
Right.
here? Where were you born? Where was the place you were born?
They call it Sand Mountain Road now, but there was a lane this side of that run off of 3rd Street down there to the house.
Tell me about your family.
The house was a 2-story house, and it had a porch upstairs that run from it was on the east side and run around the north, and the same on the bottom.
And tell me about your brothers and your sisters and your mama and daddy.
Well, I had
What's your mom and daddy's name?
Dad's name was Charles Bunyan.
And your mama?
Ardelia or Ardelia, she was a Watson. You could say Ardelia Watson Hendricks.
And you have older brothers and younger brothers.
Yeah,
huh?
you know the names.
Uh-huh.
Gwen was the oldest.
Gwen?
Yeah, Gwin.
That's a boy or a girl?
That's a boy.
Okay.
A girl spelled with E, you know.
Okay.
And Paul Bunyan was next. Then I had a brother named Vern Vurry.
How you spell that?
Vern, V-E-R-N, Vurry, V-E-R-Y.
R-R-Y?
Yeah.
Okay.
And he died at 3 years, 3 months, and 20 days old.
Okay.
And then I had a sister, Mary Lois,
How you spell that?
M-A-R-Y, Lois, L-O-I-S.
Okay.
And then there was Lauren Burr.
Spell that for me.
What?
Lauren, L-A-U-R-E-N.
Yeah.
B-U-R-R?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I come in next. And then Vince Astor
Okay.
and Lunis, L-U-N-N-E-I-S. Cornwell.
Okay. Well, that's a nice big family. So you had lots of people to play with when you were little. What did you do when you were little? What was your favorite activity?
When we was coming up, we didn't come to town a whole lot. A lot of them come to town and call them drugstore boys. We went out in the woods and played, climbed trees, and we had a lot of friends that go with us too.
That's a passel of children, isn't
Yeah.
it? So, did you share a bedroom? Or did you have your own room?
We all had our own room.
You all had your own room?
Right.
That must have been a huge
There
house.
was 4 bedrooms upstairs and 2 downstairs, and a living room and a kitchen all together. And then there was well, back then we called them parlors, but it was a living room.
And what did you like to eat? What was your favorite? Did your mama cook every day, or
Oh
just
yeah.
big breakfast and all that?
Right.
Right.
For breakfast we'd have syrup and biscuits, or sometimes eggs and grits.
Did you have to work in the field?
Oh yeah.
And what did y'all grow?
We mostly grew corn for our horses that we rode amongst the cattle. We'd pull it and put it in the barn. We called it the crib. Have
Right.
a crib full of corn. And we had a pasture out on Crooked Lake, and we'd ride our horses from here out there and we'd take our bedding and roll it up and tie it on the back of the saddle. And then we had our raincoat too, and ride from here out to there and spend the night on the stars.
That sounds wonderful. Did you go to school?
Oh yeah.
And which school did you go to?
This
You went to
school,
Lewis?
Yeah, no. The high school, they've tore it down.
Where did you go to elementary school?
The same place.
The high school?
They all went the same place.
Oh, really?
Part of it was built in 1912, and then they said the other part was built in 1916. They had a archway there and walk across the top from one school to the other.
And so you started school there and graduated?
Started school, well, I didn't graduate. I went through the 8th grade, and I had enough education to farm, so I don't know, I used to waste time going to school if I wasn't gonna get a job for education.
Well, now, did you plant and do you plant by the moon? Do you go by the signs, or do you just go out and say they?
Yeah, we mostly went with signs. The best sign that I seen it was when there's signs in the breast, they called it. Yeah, that's what they called it. It had a little crab-looking thing up there.
And that's the best time to plant.
That's right. And top crops like peas and corn and stuff like that, and then root crop we plant with signs in the feet.
Now, who taught you that?
Dad.
Your dad did? So you were used to hearing him say, this is the season to plant whatever.
Yeah.
Well, that's neat. And your first job, what was that? Did you always farm on your property, or?
Well, I worked a little bit for help. So some of these fellas had little orange trees over them, and I told my wife, I said, I'm not going to work for the day. I'm going to buy me a tractor. So I traded my truck off for a tractor. I had a good truck, a V8, and I got a little old Model A, and when I bought the tractor and a disc and traded my truck in on it, then I got a little old Model A car to ride in, and my wife thought it was ruined.
But you knew where your priorities
Right.
were, didn't you?
And from then on, I worked for myself.
Okay, so what did you plant?
I planted mostly, it was, when I went to selling stuff, it was peas. A lot of people plant eggplants and bell pepper and squash, but I never did. I grew peas.
Your farm, was it over there where Mr. Bear's land is? Where was your farm?
Some of it I leased land to farm on. Some of it was out here in Wright's pasture. Some was back over here on U.S. Steel's land.
So wherever you wanted to plant it, you'd go find a place and
Find a land to rent.
yeah.
And then the phosphate come along, dug it all up and ruined it.
So what did you do after the phosphate came?
Well, I quit farming then and just fooled with my cattle.
So you've got cattle. You had cattle.
Yeah,
Now where'd you? And you
I had Orange Grove too.
Now tell me, when you were young and you came to Fort Meade, whenever you got to come to Fort Meade and you weren't in the trees, where did you go and what did you do and what was it like?
Well,
Did you get to come to town? You didn't get to come to town.
when I was a youngster, we come to town every Saturday night.
And what did you do?
And we just sat here and watched the people. Some of the kids would get out and walk up and down. The old folks would sit in their cars and watch people, and they'd stay there till midnight, till all the stores closed, and then they'd go home. They'd buy their groceries. And a lot of people bought their groceries. And this week, on a credit, and paid for them the next week.
So the stores were open until 12 o'clock?
Right.
Wow.
And the A&P down here, they had a tub like that. It had butter in it. and they put crackers there, and they'd let you have a sample. That was to advertise their butter. And us youngsters, we'd go there and butter.
Now I was going to ask you, who was your best friend when you were growing up?
Well, I had a boy that lived next door to me. He was younger than I was, and we always played together. Whatnot. And then there was some more boys, but he was special.
So but you played mainly with your family, with your brothers?
Right.
When you got to high school, is that when you met your sweetheart and got married?
No, I was out of school, and she was living pretty close to where I was at. I was going by there, and they said something to me. What was I doing or something? And I went in there and went to talking to her, and then I got to going from there.
Got to going. What was her name?
Levy Lee Bozeman. And I reckon we went together. She was about 13 when I started with her. She was about 17 when we got married.
And y'all had children?
Yeah, we had two. The oldest one was Eileen, and the youngest was Margie. And Eileen, she passed away 2 or 3 years ago.
Did they plant? Were they the boys that you wanted, or were they little girls?
They were little girls.
They were
it
little.
didn't matter to me as long as they were healthy.
Right. I just wondered if you had them out rustling cattle and doing farm work.
Well, one of them liked to work in the house. The other liked to be with me. The youngster liked to be with me out around in the farm with the cows. And the other, she loved to be in the kitchen of the house.
And then your first wife passed away.
Yeah.
In what year?
1978.
And you got married, and who did you marry this time?
Doris Poole.
And now she had a granddaughter.
Right. Her name was Angie Murphy.
And you raised her.
Right.
She calls you granddad. She
Right.
calls you dad nearly.
I went up there this morning. She called out at the house and wanted to know if there's anything wrong with me. I said, no, I'm just supposed to bring some stuff down here.
So, how many grandchildren do you have?
4 grandchildren and her step-grandchild.
And what's their names? What are your 4?
There's Jimmy Williams and Beverly Williams and Steve Sloan and Susan Sloan.
And then Angie makes 5.
Right.
Okay. And when did you marry Doris?
In 1979. I believe.
And then she passed away.
Yeah.
Did you get married after that?
No.
Okay. So you
Both of them died with cancer.
really. So now you spend a lot of your time at the museum, being a great help around here.
People ask me when I retired. I said, well, I didn't exactly retire. I said I tried to, and I come down to the museum and Lita put me to work.
So you've never had any free time.
No.
What do you enjoy doing, or what did you enjoy doing when you were a kid? As far as, did you fish? Did you ever get to?
Yeah, we fished and hunted, quail, doves, shot doves, deer. I never killed but 4 deer, I believe, and I never shot it before, so, and I never missed a shot.
That sounds good. Did you eat them, or did you put them up? Did you have a smokehouse, or what?
Yeah, we give some of it away. The quail and doves, we eat them. Yeah. And we used to, when we was going to Bowling Green, we went out here. They call it Sand Mountain Road now, but back then it was Road 35. A lot of people don't know that.
Mm. So was Bowling Green a big town then?
Not like it is now. There's a few more houses there. And you went down 37, old Sand Mountain Road, went down there and got down below where Sand Mountain used to be and turned to the right and go down there a mile or two and turn back to your left. And went on down there with the Perrys and then on into Bowling Green.
That's before the phosphate.
Yeah.
So what do you think has changed the most about Fort Meade?
Well, we used to have more stores here. We used to have the A&P and the B&B and the IGA, and there was one before that, there was a fella named O.J. Taylor, and he run we call it a general store. You could go there and buy clothes, plows, food, just anything in that store. And then there's another one named O.J. Taylor, he run a grocery store.
What other kind of stores did they have? Was it just on Broadway?
Yeah, it was on Broadway. They had some dry goods stores, and they had some furniture stores. And then they used to have 2 packing houses here. They had Peace River, and they had one out here at I ain't gonna think of his name now. He run that packing house. And then there's had a canning plant here at the government, canned vegetables and meat and stuff, and there was a Miss Shirts that run it.
Were there stores and businesses on 17? A long time ago?
There was a few filling stations, mostly.
What about on East 98?
Yeah, going out towards the river, there was a Miss Carly. She run a grocery store out there.
Do you remember the old houses that were here? I mean, the old houses that were here when, from the beginning.
Yeah, like where Moody's Funeral Home or Hancock Funeral Home, there was a feller. He was in the timber business. And then this side of that, he had a son-in-law, was John Keller.
Do you remember going to the river a lot?
Well, yeah, not too much. We didn't fish in the river. We'd fish in bow legs.
But you, when you went to the bridge, that was just beyond the high school, right? That was right there at the high school.
Yeah.
So you remember the old bridge?
Right. There's an old steel, wooden floor and steel rails there. And in 1935, John Singletary built that. He was county commissioner. Had that cement bridge made, concrete. And yonder where Barnett's is, there used to be a store the other side of that, a jewelry store. And there's a feller, man, that run that, and he had a daughter that was married to John Parker, and he taught school. I went to her, went to taught school.
Let me see. Well, now that you are officially retired and you do a lot of work around here, what would you like to see Fort Meade bring back that maybe it has lost?
Well, it would be good to have a store here, a grocery store, Publix, they ain't coming here 'cause they're marked though, and they know we'll drive there, so let's used to build a store here.
Yeah. Well, I sure appreciate you sharing what you know. Is there anything else you'd like to tell that I may not have asked you about?
Well, we used to have a ice plant here. They made their own ice. They took some kind of chemicals to make that ice and made it in big old blocks. I reckon weigh up 200 pounds.
Where was that?
It was over here, pretty close. Down this is the other side down here, pretty close.
On
to-
17?
You know, this road up here, the other side of the museum.
Oh, really?
On down there, maybe it's this side of the water plant down there.
Okay.
And they made ice, and there's a fellow lines there. Something happened, and it blowed up and killed him. And the fella that owned that ice plant had one in Mulberry. And they shut them down for some reason in years to come. They had one sitting over in 17. And you tell people about an ice house and say, oh yeah, over 17. I said, no. They used to have one that made their own ice. I said, that's down there, the holy ice in here to it. And you'd go there and had a place to put your money in, and the ice would fall out, whatever amount you paid for it. And I went there one time and paid, and it wouldn't pay off, wouldn't give me no ice. And I looked up in there where it would fall through, and there was a block of ice, and I moved it around, and it just kept pouring out.
When was that? A long time ago?
Oh yeah, that was a long time.
So you got all the ice you needed for that quarter, huh?
Yeah. There's 4 or 5 blocks come out there.
Is there anything else you'd like to tell about Fort Meade, or your friends, or your family?
Well, down here at the cemetery, where that Catholic church sits, that used to be no trees there with the Catholic church, and no cemetery, and they used to race horses there.
Really?
Yeah, and even lit airplanes down there.
Did you ever go to those races?
Oh yeah.
That was.
We raced horses there.
You had horses that you raced?
Yeah. There was dad's horses, but we raced them. And that trailer park down there where it's called a city, that used to be, people come from the north, and instead of buying stuff around here, they brought their stuff already canned, and we called it the Tin Can Park.
That's cute.
Yeah.
What was Patterson Park like?
There wasn't no Patterson Park there for a long time.
Was it a pit, or was it?
Yeah, mine had up there where Badcock moved up there, that plant back off in there, that they called it Charleston Mine then, and then it went to VC because it was Virginia, Carolina. And that's what dug them pits. Well, they didn't dig them. They had, they moved the top off with a steam shovel, and then you'd get water and wash it around, and they had something suck it up to the dry bin, they call
So that's a man-made lake.
it. Yeah, right.
And do you remember when that was made?
It was made, no, I don't remember, but it was made back in 1918, I imagine, or before.
So that used to just be woods out there?
Yeah, yeah.
If you got that far, you weren't in town anymore, huh?
Right. We used to go out in there, and they had the big old dams up in there, dirt that piled up, and guavas just grow wild out there, and we'd get guavas, blackberries.
Sounds like a wonderful way to live.
I got a son-in-law, he can't stand guavas, because when they come down, his daddy bought a place out here on Deshawn Road, and had them little old bitty guavas, and they smelled bad. He said anything a cat would cover up, he didn't want to eat it.
Let me see. And you went to church, or did you have a church?
Yeah, I went to Methodist church. Me and my mother walk from over here, it's about 2 miles every Sunday. And I joined the church, I think I was about 9 or 10 years old. And we walked there every Sunday to church.
What was it like inside when you were a child at church? Is that when they had the windows open on a hot day?
Yeah, yeah.
Well, that's
There wasn't no air conditioning around.
where did you? Well, you said you had your own bedroom.
Yeah,
And so that you slept with the windows open. Or?
yeah, right. Had screens on. And that's another thing, when we used to go out and sleep out at night, when we'd ride a horse out to Lake, Crooked Lake, we had what we call a mosquito bar. It was up about that high and it had a sheet like on top and that net around the bottom. It had a string here, string here, and string there, string there. And you'd find enough trees out there, you'd tie this string and that, and then you'd crawl up on there and the mosquitoes wouldn't bother you.
That sounds like a good idea
Yeah.
even today.
You couldn't have slept out there because mosquitoes eat you up. And them mosquitoes used to be so bad down below Okeechobee down in there, they'd sometimes suffocate the cattle and get death, just fill their nose full.
That ever happen around here?
No, no.
Gracious. Well, I sure appreciate you letting me interview you, and happy birthday on the 3rd.
Thank you.
I think it ought to be a very special day for you.
Well, come down there.
I will. And thank you again.
You're welcome.
Yeah, you got some fruit peas.
Hello.
You got corn about ready, and then black eyes, got cucumbers, squash.
Did y'all sign it?
I signed it. I signed it for you.
Okay, okay. Look at all the names.
He hasn't signed it yet.
Okay. I think you can sign
You want to sign?
He wanted to get away from the bell, didn't he?
Far enough, yeah. That's causes it. What fire is up there? I guess that this environment down there is Spanish.
White large.
Oh, I know it. Ken, did you sign the card?
No biscuit. That's it.
Okay, let me, you're thinking kind of place.
Now the large kid.
Think you can have a little cubby hole?
It's not.
Can you photograph it?
What day you gonna see anymore? I'm gonna try to pick up. We used to walk home from school, school class.
3. Ain't he sweet? See him coming down the street. Now I ask you very confidentially, ain't he sweet? Ain't he nice? Look him over once or twice. And I ask you very confidentially, ain't he nice? Cast ain't he sort of neat? And I ask you very confidentially, ain't he sweet? Happy birthday! Well, I see they don't want an encore, so we won't give you an encore.
Leah, are you ready for the cake?
Now we're going to try something else with Olma here. We've got 95 candles on the cake, and all of the breeze is blowing, but we're going to try to light all of them, and you got to blow them out. So get ready.
I thought we'd move it over here first if he's gonna blow it out here, but I'm gonna make it up there.
Is he coming up here, Lita? I don't think he'll make it on them first.
Needs to be up there on time. From each other, they're so close.
We'll have candles.
Yeah, I'm sorry, my family.
We'll know when you turn 95, we'll know not to put 95 candles. I think this is fun. Gosh, that hot sauce is getting to me. Come on, Win, stop just a few minutes. It's changing. Are we about to finish?
Okay, Alma.
Alma, come here. Lita, Tina's here.
Oh, y'all sing. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Olma. Happy birthday to you.
Yeah!
Little red button down. Somebody better
Just
start
hurry, the
blowing.
candles are
Have you got it?
I got it.
He's got it.
Alma, when we blow. 1, 2, 3, blow. Yay! You did it!
Practice. Got wax all over the
Wax on it. My candles stuck on there too, Zach's stuck. Y'all wanna start pulling candles?
Y'all let me get his picture here with that cake a minute. Hold the back on it.
All right, it's going.
Go ahead and open it.
Go ahead and open it.
Okay, that's a good.
This camera that Kenneth is using will go with our video in the museum, so we'll be able to play this over and over in there and watch all the activity of today. So if you all liked it up, you'll see it.
Just like a woman, they taped it again.
Well, Y'all used so much tape, he had to. Lord, you rat.
Who wrapped this?
Lita, I think. Did you do that?
That's pretty good though. Is there anything in there?
A lot of paper. You will need a shingle.
A shingle.
All of that is one of the shingles that came off of the building. Well, I had an artist out at the Flywheel Park. I just had an idea, and it turned out beautiful. And,
It is.
and
That's neat.
we wanted to present it to you. With all your care around here. But that's an actual shingle off the museum.
That's a neat idea.
I want everybody to be sure and see this.
Where he come in at.
Oh. Let me concentrate on this and I'll. What is that paper here? Oh, that's the dip recipe? Might as well get you while I'm going.